Welcome back, Defenders. It finally happened. Trump suspends all military aid to Ukraine, pressuring Zelensky on peace talks. Going forward, anytime Donald Trump says peace talks, he actually means capitulation. There are no negotiations. There are no peace talks. At the moment, Donald Trump is applying maximum pressure on Ukraine to stop this war on all of Russia's terms. The US president has halted all military aid to Ukraine, including weapons in transit. This has been confirmed by the Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk. US arms deliveries to Ukraine via Poland have stopped. And not only have they stopped, Donald Trump didn't tell anyone. Donald Trump didn't consult Poland, or talk to Germany, or France, or the United Kingdom. He didn't consult NATO or the Ramstein Group. Donald Trump doesn't care about our allies. He doesn't care about NATO, and he doesn't care about Ukraine. CIA director confirms US suspends intelligence exchange with Ukraine. So the United States is no longer providing intelligence to the Ukrainian military. Short term, this is not devastating, but this is going to affect the battlefield. Ukrainian civilians are going to die because of Donald Trump's decisions. Ukraine's military members are going to die because of Donald Trump's decisions, even if it's only temporarily halted for a week. The biggest concern is air defense missiles as well as artillery shells. Right now, I'm sure Ukraine's military is going into conservation mode. They're going to have to make tough decisions. Do we respond with our own artillery fire? Do we shoot down that drone or missile? Because now they believe, or they have to plan, for their inventory to be limited, as Donald Trump has cut off military aid. So what does Donald Trump want? The United States wants Zelensky to regret that Oval Office clash and to sign the minerals deal. This is what National Security Mike Waltz is saying on television. And Zelensky is trying. Zelensky says the White House meeting with Trump did not go as expected. So here is the statement that President Zelensky put out yesterday. He's trying to repair the damage. I would like to reiterate Ukraine's commitment to peace. None of us wants an endless war. Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than Ukrainians. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We are ready to work fast to end the war, and the first stages could be the release of prisoners and a truce in the sky, a ban on missiles, long-range drones, bombs on energy and other civilian infrastructure, and a truce in the sea immediately if Russia will do the same. So bless President Zelensky, he's still trying. He's still trying to get some kind of agreement or concession that the Russians at the moment don't want to do. I don't think Russia is in favor of releasing their POWs or any kind of truce in the sky or in the seas, but Zelensky is going to continue reaching for what would benefit Ukraine. Then we want to move very fast through all next stages and to work with the US to agree on a strong final deal. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence, and we remember the moment when things changed when President Trump provided Ukraine with javelins. We are grateful for this. Are you happy, J.D. Vance? Our meeting in Washington at the White House on Friday did not go the way it was supposed to be. It is regrettable that it happened this way. It is time to make things right. We would like future cooperation and communication to be constructive. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it in any time and any convenient format. We see this agreement as a step towards greater security and solid security guarantees, and I truly hope it'll work effectively. So once again, Zelensky is trying to call this mineral deal some kind of security guarantee, when Donald Trump won't say that. Donald Trump is saying the exact opposite. The United States will not provide any security guarantees. And Trump just wants Ukraine's minerals. So Zelensky is in an impossible situation doing his best, but we have to remind everyone in the world who's not insane, this is the reality. Russia is the aggressor. Russia started this war. Russia, even today, is continuing this war with daily attacks. They are still trying to grab and steal more Ukrainian territory, more land. So for Donald Trump and MAGA to be blaming Zelensky, blaming Ukraine, and offering cover for the Russians, this is reprehensible. This is inexcusable. This is offensive. So big picture, what does Donald Trump actually want from Ukraine right now, based on his own words and statements? And Donald Trump wants a formal apology on camera from Zelensky. Trump wants to humiliate and debase Zelensky, and he wants this on-camera apology. He also wants the mineral deal, of course, because he thinks he's getting $500 billion of the rare earth. I also think the United States is still going to insist that Ukraine hold elections if there's a ceasefire, even though their constitution forbids this. Trump said this in the meeting. He wants Zelensky to stop saying negative things about Putin. Too many negative things being said about the Russians. Donald Trump is trying to secure this aluminum deal from the Russians, so he doesn't want Ukraine offending Vladimir Putin during America's trade negotiations with Russia. I can't believe I'm saying that. And of course, to give up all the temporarily occupied territories to Russia. The United States is going to demand that Zelensky recognize this territory as belonging to Russia now. Here are thoughts from Alexei Goncharenko. What can Ukraine do? And to resolve the issue with the Trump administration, if we need to apologize, we need to apologize. Our main task is not to lose this war and not to lose people. His second suggestion, start systematic work with Republicans and Democrats, both in the Trump administration as well as in Congress. Ukraine's members of parliament or members of their government should be trying to get more face time, more one-on-ones, more meetings with both Republicans and Democrats. We need a concrete plan. How can we survive without U.S. help? So Donald Trump might resume weapons deliveries later this week after Zelensky apologizes and then signs the mineral deal. But if he was willing to do this once, he will do it again. If in 3 months, 30 days, whatever, Trump demands that Ukraine do something and it's not in Ukraine's best interest, if Zelensky ever says no to Donald Trump going forward, Donald Trump will just do this again. So Ukraine and the Europeans, you need a plan for this to be permanent. It might not be permanent this week, but if Trump was willing to do this now, simply because he was offended, then yes, he will do it again if Ukraine does not capitulate or do whatever the Russians want. We need to start working with American Protestants. These are evangelicals. They are the foundation of the current Trump administration. Russia is not a Christian nation. Church attendance in Russia is horrible. Their drug use and HIV rates are abhorrent. The face that Patriarch Kirill and Putin put on the country does not reflect reality. Meanwhile, Ukraine is a Christian nation, so there should be more done to reach out to the evangelical community in America and convince them that supporting Ukraine is the same as supporting decent Christians around the world. Turn off emotions, turn off reason. The reality is that Trump is now the US president. We are completely dependent on the United States, and we need to play with Trump, not against him. We have enemies. We have enough enemies as it is. Let's not lose any friends. So the Ukraine minerals deal is not dead, but Zelensky needs to be more appreciative. This is what Trump said. So Trump was offended by Zelensky standing up for himself and standing up for his country against Russian lies. So Trump is a bully, and he's going to debase him. He's going to try and humiliate him. Zelensky now looks like a folk hero in the eyes of anyone who watched that interaction between the two of them. So Trump wants Zelensky to humble himself. And he's going to try and extract more now. According to CBS News, Trump is now seeking a bigger and better Ukraine mineral deal after the White House fallouts. So this is Trump, once again, acting like a mafia boss who didn't feel like he was being respected enough, and he's going to take this out on Ukraine, saying, give me a better deal, give me more money, give me better terms. Because F you. You didn't do what you were supposed to when you came to Washington, D.C. on Friday. So I know for a lot of people this is shocking, and I just want to defend ordinary Americans because nothing that Donald Trump is doing right now is receiving popular support from American voters. Donald Trump, every action, every decision he's making currently, only serves the minority opinion. This is what American voters actually believe. Who is to blame for this war? Is Ukraine more to blame for starting this war? That's what Donald Trump said. This war is Ukraine's fault. Ukraine started it. Only 7% of Americans believe that, whereas 70% disagree. It was Russia who invaded Ukraine. Even on the issue of mineral rights, the United States should get a share of Ukraine's minerals. 50% of Americans disagree, while 46% agree, mostly Republicans, 73%. The financial and military aid the United States has provided so far was a grant. It wasn't a loan, and it served America's best interest to weaken the Russians. This is what a majority of Americans still believe today. But Donald Trump doesn't care. And I want to share this clip. Americans fighting in Ukraine criticize Trump's treatment of Zelensky and Trump's embracement of the Russians. So these are American volunteers on the ground in Ukraine, fighting on the front lines. They volunteered to serve in Ukraine's military. And I want to share with you their reaction to the events of Friday. The man who's going to speak first, his call sign name is Nasty, and he's a Trump voter. He voted for Trump in the last two elections, and as you can guess, he's pretty outraged.
Hey, my name's Nasty. I'm an American volunteer in Hartia Brigade, 13th Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, here with a couple of other foreign volunteers. We just wanted to say that last night's shenanigans with Trump was embarrassing. It's not how foreigners feel about Ukraine at all. None of us would be here if that were the case. There are foreigners coming here to fight from all over the world. Not only was what he said rude as fuck, but is full of falsehoods. You know, to say that it's Ukraine's fault, that basically to make it sound like Zelensky's playing a game by saying, "Oh, you don't hold the cards." I thought that was very admirable of Zelensky to say, "Well, we're not playing a card game. It's not a game." And to say that there's a shortage of people fighting here, that's not true at all. There are people here from 58 countries. Now, thousands of people flocked from all over the world, in addition to the hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers currently fighting. There are people signing up every day. He's painting a really shitty picture that's just bolstering Russian confidence. It's basically Russian propaganda out of the mouth of an American president. It's shameful. I voted for that man 2 times. I've always been a diehard Trump supporter to the point of losing friends over standing up for that man and what he says on TV. But last night he crossed the line to invite that man from his war-torn country all the way across the world to bring him to a strange place and then berate him and humiliate him on national television. It was immature, it was childish, it was stupid. That's embarrassing.
I'm Gaz.
I'll link the entire clip down below if you want to hear more from these guys. But Donald Trump's decision to cut off military aid and intelligence sharing is putting the lives of these Americans at risk. Donald Trump definitely doesn't care if Ukrainians die, but he also doesn't care if these Americans on the ground helping Ukraine die. Last night we had our annual State of the Union address, and I'll be honest, guys, I don't recognize the country I'm currently living in. Elon Musk is in charge of all domestic policy. Vladimir Putin is now in charge of all of our foreign policy. And Donald Trump is just a figurehead. He's just a bully. He just lies and makes up stuff every day. So this State of the Union address last night was just 2 hours of bullshit. Just lies. Everything out of his mouth is factually incorrect and a provable lie. I could spend an entire hour making a video just everything that our president is saying to the American people. I imagine something like 60 million Americans watch this speech, and everything he says is a lie. And I'll give you one example. During the State of the Union address, Trump claimed that $8 million of fraud caught by Doge was being used to make mice transgender. This is obviously not true. We'll talk about why.
$8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
All right, so this was another one of those, if Trump said it, it has to be true moments. But Trump actually misspoke here big time. Because what Trump should have said is scientists were making mice transgenic, not transgender. And as you can see here, transgenic mouse technology has revolutionized virtually all fields of biology and provided new genetic approaches to model many human diseases in a whole animal context. So,
the word transgenic refers to altering the DNA of mice to make them more comparable to humans. This makes trials for drugs and treatments more effective on the mice because their genes are now more comparable to human beings. Transgenic has nothing to do with changing the gender of a mouse. And Donald Trump to 60 million Americans, or however many, claimed last night that Doge found $8 million of waste providing sex change operations on mice. He just said it. Like, does Donald Trump and Doge think that the Secretary of Transportation, just because it says the word, I don't know, guys, like, I'm trying to come up with a smart aleck comments, but everything is so unbelievably stupid. What do you do? What do you do to just a machine that just lies all day, every day? And he's got Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin backing him up right now. So there was a moment in the speech in which he talked about Ukraine. I'm not going to play this. There's no point. Donald Trump claimed that Zelensky wrote him a beautiful letter, and Zelensky is now serious about signing the mineral deal and engaging in peace talks, but this is just about capitulation. He was just trying to gloat. The real reaction we should be looking at is the Kremlin. What are the Russians saying to all of this chaos and confusion in the United States? Kremlin says U.S. foreign policy shift aligns with its own vision. The Russians are giddy. They're celebrating. Everything that Donald Trump is saying and doing perfectly reflects what they want him to be saying and doing right now. And this clip, this is the latest clip from Russia Media Monitor. This is terrifying because Solyov is speaking the truth. He actually gives the correct analysis on what Donald Trump is doing. So I'm going to read this for you. And this is very bad news for the free and democratic world. But I do believe Solyov is correct. This is what he says. Trump will say, let's go back to realpolitik. Trump will say, I don't care if the Russians are in Odessa, Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, or Kyiv. He'll say, what do I care? All I need is for the Panama Canal to be American, and for Greenland and Canada to join America. This is important, it's in our national interests, and that's it. This is how this fairy tale may end. In reality, America and Russia have no conflicts. We don't share a border we could be fighting over, Russia and America. Russia and America may benefit from an economic alliance, a lot more than America's alliance with Europe. America doesn't see us as an economic competitor, the way it sees Europe. And this is true. Russia does not have an economy that threatens the United States. Russia doesn't have much of a manufacturing base or high-tech industry like Europe does. Russia does have a lot of natural resources that they're willing to sell to America at a discount to benefit the American economy. Russia and the United States don't share a border, but both Russia and the United States have a lot of smaller, weaker neighbors. The United States can take Greenland, Panama, Canada, and then Russia can get back their old empire. And the two superpowers can live in peaceful harmony with each other on opposite sides of the world. This is what Solyov is telling his audience, that it's good news. That's why Trump sees this and goes, why? Right now, with Trump taking away the nuclear umbrella, all of these dirtbags who are talking about placing NATO troops on the territory of Ukraine should understand that nothing is holding us back from moving this escalation to a totally different level and to use the kinds of weapons that won't require additional people for the army to fulfill the tasks set by the Supreme Commander with a totally different number of casualties on the territory of the Nazi countries. So Russia has 6,000 nuclear weapons. The United States has like 5,800. We're the two that make deterrence work. We're the two countries pointing thousands of nuclear warheads at each other so that neither fires a shot. But if Donald Trump will not commit to nuclear deterrence and to protect our NATO partners, this is Solyov saying, why don't we just nuke every European capital? Why don't we just kill everyone in Europe? You know, there will be decades of radiation, but eventually proper Russians can repopulate Poland and Germany and France after they've been annihilated, after they've been wiped off the planet. And I don't think deterrence is there anymore. I think what is stopping Russia from using a nuclear weapon still is India and China being upset if Russia nukes their trade partners. Donald Trump doesn't care. He seriously doesn't, guys. It gets worse. Russia and US held secret talks on restarting the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. What does this have to do with the United States? This is a pipeline between Russia and Germany. If Germany wants to reopen the Nord Stream pipeline, they can talk to the Russians. But the United States is getting involved to help Russia, to do a favor to Russia. And Donald Trump will have no problem exerting political and economic pressure on Germany to get hooked back on cheap Russian gas. This is what Russia wants. They're asking Donald Trump if he can help them. And I do think at some point this year, Donald Trump is going to start applying pressure to Germany to go back to buying Russian gas. Trump administration is drafting Russian sanction relief proposal, according to Reuters. This is also going to happen at some point this year. Donald Trump is going to return all frozen assets and lift all sanctions on Russia. He's then going to apply political and economic pressure against the G7 and the EU to do the same. Pretend like the last 3 years never happened. Go back to doing business as normal with a dictator, with a war criminal. To be clear, the United States is leveling punishing tariffs on its allies while discussing easing sanctions on Russia. At the same time, Donald Trump is trying to make the world a safer place and better for Russians. He's attacking our closest allies, specifically now Mexico and Canada, but he's also threatening tariffs against the European Union. So I'm going to read for you Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's reaction. These are the statements he put out yesterday after 25% tariffs on Canada officially went into effect. Today, the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. Canadians are reasonable, but we will not back down from a fight, not when our country is at stake. The moment U.S. tariffs came into effect this morning, so did the Canadian response. Canada will be implementing 25% tariffs against $155 billion of American products, starting with $30 billion worth of goods immediately, and then the remaining $125 billion in 21 days. So Canada did say they're trying to target these sanctions against red states, states that voted for Donald Trump. Canada doesn't want to punish Americans who didn't vote for this and don't support this, but you gotta do what you gotta do, Canada. Don't hold back. And this is where we now are as Americans. The first quarter is on track for negative GDP growth, according to the Atlanta Fed. So a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. And Americans won't actually know we're in a recession until we get the data. This will happen in like September or October. But where it stands right now, due to Trump's disastrous economic policies his first 6 weeks, the economy is shrinking because consumer confidence is falling. The price of everything is about to skyrocket. Inflation here in the United States is about to go back up after it's been coming down the last 2 years. And I used to be a finance YouTuber, for those of you who have been with the channel longer than 3 years. And technically, this is very interesting. This is the S&P 500, which is the stand-in for the general U.S. stock market. And the S&P hit a high on February 19th of 6,100. But it's pulled back about 6 or 7% in the last 2 weeks in response to Elon Musk and Donald Trump being crazy. But technically, the technicals of the chart, this looks like a good time to buy in. This blue line is the 200-day moving average. So a lot of people are looking at the chart saying, we should be buying in, this is an uptrend. But anyone paying attention to the news, yeah, you might have some shaken confidence. So there's going to be wild swings in the stock market. There's going to be a lot of up and down. People who say the uptrend is still intact, keep buying, versus people saying the cost of everything is about to go up greater than 25%. This is going to destroy the American consumer. We won't know how bad it is probably for another 2 months. All of the S&P 500 companies just gave their quarterly earnings reports last month, and they don't have to report their guidance or their books for another 2 months. So the stock market is just going to go crazy in the short term. I think there's going to be a lot of wild up and down swings. But here's just one story. Here's one industry. How are these stupid tariffs going to affect the automotive industry? And this is a report about the price of pickup trucks going up here in America on Fox Business News.
Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram.
Yeah.
Impact.
Dramatic. I sold order for a customer, $80,000 truck. It's $100,000 now. So he's not going to buy the truck. It's going to sit on my lot at the higher interest rates we're paying right now for floor plan, and nobody's going to buy the truck because it just had a $20,000 price increase.
Right. Kelley Blue Book will put the number up. They say the average vehicle will go up by about $3,000. Does it sound right to you?
No, it will not. We don't have the broad stroke. We don't have the linear, the tight strokes. But to me, it's a 25% tariff. So that affects our parts that come from over these countries, and a whole bunch of our cars.
So the price of these brand new pickup trucks is going to go up from $80,000 to now more than $100,000. The manufacturing and supply chains for all of these vehicles integrate with Canada and Mexico. because that is the free trade deal that Donald Trump negotiated during his first term. He's violating the trade agreements that he negotiated 5 years ago. Why? I don't know. But I want to say that a lot of these companies, Mexican, Canada, and America, they did everything they could during the pandemic to stop using Chinese parts and European parts to get the entire supply chain just inside North America. Wasn't the cheapest option, wasn't the best, but because of the pandemic and supply chain disruptions with the ports, they saw that as their best option. And Donald Trump just undid all of this. These Canadian and American and Mexican companies, because of 25% tariffs, they now have to do business again with Europe, business again with China, Japan, South Korea. You can't do business with the United States. They are not reliable. They will violate their own trade agreements. So maybe in response to this Fox Business story about $100,000 pickup trucks, Trump grants automotive makers a 1-month exemption from his tariffs. Or maybe it's because of Tesla and Elon Musk, and Donald Trump is just protecting his largest campaign donor. But if it's bad for purchasing vehicles, if it's bad for Americans, why just cars? What about grocery prices? What about healthcare costs? Everything in the United States has global supply chains that are deeply intertwined with Mexico and Canada. And everything that ordinary Americans buy is just going to, if this holds, by the end of the month, will be greater than 25% more expensive. This is insane. That's the cartoon. That is the accurate representation of what Donald Trump is doing to the American economy right now. So for my international friends, if you can support Canada, if you can support Mexico, please do it. If you can buy locally or in-source from within Europe or even Asia Pacific, you have to boycott the United States. You have to avoid Americans. And this might be the only thing that'll wake up about 20% of the population. Donald Trump is lying to them and they still believe him. And as long as the stock market keeps going up, people think that Donald Trump's policies are good. So we need for there to be economic pain to shock these people out of their delusions. There's no benefit to doing any of this. None. Has nothing to do with crime or gangs or fentanyl or any of that nonsense. Donald Trump, it sure feels like, is deliberately trying to cause an economic crash. So here's the headline, and this is the weird part. Oil prices continue to decline amid growing tensions between US and Ukraine. When consumer demand falls, demand for energy goes down, which causes the price of oil to go down. This is the price of ICE Brent crude. The current price of oil is $69 a barrel, but if we just go back to January 14th, the price was $82. The price of energy, the price of oil is going down because global economic activity is going down. Consumer demand is going down. And we can double check this with the price of Urals oil. This is what the Russians are getting. They were getting $77, once again, just 2 months ago. And now they're getting $65 and falling. If Donald Trump triggers a massive global recession, this will hurt the Russians the most. Russia right now is the least prepared country in the world for a global financial recession or contraction. Something to look out for. Russian army's use of donkeys in Ukraine underscores a staggering equipment shortage. And unfortunately today I don't have any more videos of donkeys on the front lines being used by the Russians. But they are using something new. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but you can look at it. What do you think it is? What do you think the Russians are now using for their supply runs?
Скоро. Русская импровизация. Где?
That is a stolen baby stroller. The Russian military is now using baby strollers on the front lines for the supply runs. The reason why is Ukrainian FPV drones have destroyed all of their supply trucks. The Russians do try and use civilian vehicles, but anything moving within 20 kilometers of the contact line is obviously being used by the Russian military, so it gets destroyed. So the Russians are telling their soldiers to walk 20 kilometers. And rather than having vehicles for use, they're using donkeys and baby strollers. This is the Russian military in 2025. This is who Donald Trump wants to ally with. Ukrainian drones hit oil pumping station and a refinery. This is Ukraine's winning strategy. They've been all in since January, and I don't think they're going to stop. Unless Donald Trump makes them stop. But we do have the videos. This is an oil depot in the Rostov region. This is an oil refinery in Ufa. And this was the longest range strike against an oil refinery in Russia. This was 1,350 kilometers from Ukrainian-controlled territory. So here's Moscow on the map. This is where this oil refinery is located. And Ukraine's going to continue striking them. There's no reason to stop. This is the winning strategy. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Eutelsat plans to supply Ukraine with satellite connectivity amid Starlink uncertainty. Elon Musk wants to shut off Starlink to Ukraine. I do think at some point in the future, if relations get worse, this will happen. So Ukraine is already forcing itself to come up with an alternative. I believe this is a European company. But look at how many terminals Poland has purchased and supplied for Ukraine's military use. 24,400 Starlink terminals being used by the Ukrainian military. Yes, I imagine if Elon Musk were to shut this off abruptly, this would cause chaos on the front lines. Australia says they're open to sending its peacekeeping force to Ukraine, or at least they're considering it. Thank you so much to the people of Australia. Ireland allocates $108 million in aid to Ukraine for the purchase of non-lethal military equipment. Money is money. Thank you so much to the people of Ireland. The Netherlands says they're going to invest 700 million euros in drone production for Ukraine. If Ukraine has to rely less on artillery, then they're going to need more FPV drones. FPV drones is Ukraine's greatest advantage on the battlefield at the moment. Russia could catch up in production and use, but Ukraine desperately needs more just cheap $300, $400, $500 FPV drones to hold the Russian forces back. Final clip I have for you today, I want to share this clip of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau standing up to Donald Trump. Honestly, for the people in America trying to resist him, we need all the help we can get. And I appreciate the strong words and actions from Canada's Prime Minister. I want to play this clip.
The United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense. Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake. I want to speak first directly to the American people. We don't want this. We want to work with you as a friend and ally. And we don't want to see you hurt either. But your government has chosen to do this to you. Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the US have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Bravo. Continue resisting Donald Trump and America. Continue resisting Vladimir Putin and Russia. In any way you can, guys. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth. Keep defending democracy.